Okay. So now that we're recording, so my name is Jared. This is Radical Self Respect, and today I have a guest, Christina Mungavin. She is
Hello.
the leader of District 5, Congressional District 5 of the Walkaway organization. So, how are you today, Christina?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Jared?
Rocking and rolling. So,
Perfect.
we had met digitally here via a friend that was
Yep.
supposed to join us but is not here, which is okay. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Walk Away organization and what they do, like what their mission statement is, and let's take it from there.
Yes. So the organization in and of itself was started by a man named Brandon Strock. You guys could easily find him on Facebook. Um, really anywhere. He's everywhere. You could, if you wanted to find the organization itself, you could Google that too, and it brings you to the actual page where you can find more about it, where you can actually read about it. But Brandon basically started this because he said in his testimony that he was very far left leaning. He was very far left leaning liberal, and it's pretty much how he put it. Um, and he said that he, started really just getting interested in what was going on with the media, and what was going on when President Trump was really starting his candidacy. He realized that there was just a lot of just fishy things going on with the media. And then he started asking questions. And as soon as you start asking questions in today's time, everybody starts immediately pointing fingers and going against you, really. So what he did was he started getting people's testimonies as to why they had walked away or were walking away from the Democratic Party, and more so from the radicalization that comes from the left. I do think that there is a difference between moderate Democrats and left leaning. Um, so I kind of just want to put that out there. Um, but he started doing testimonials, and through those, it really just started growing and expanding. And what they have expanded in is a PAC, and it's a super PAC where they're able to endorse candidates that we feel are best for this country. And how I got associated with that is, like you said, I am Congressional District 5. I'm the leader of that. So my job is to basically inform the people here in my local area about Walkaway, how it really just it's starting on our American values and how we just branched off from those, our just our unity and our love for our neighbor, knowing that we're going to have different views and that's okay. Knowing that we should be able to come and just grow together. And we should be in a place where if you don't agree with me, that's fine. We could sit down and we can discuss those things to get to these resolutions. And so we want to start, planning events and just hosting events where we can really educate people on what's going on in our country and why we feel that it's starting to really, lead into a dangerous place for us. I mean, it's very obvious that this country is very divided, so I think that it's great. I think it's an amazing thing when people can stand up for what they believe in. And that's really what Walkaway is all about. Just being able to think freely for yourself, and everybody is welcome to join us. It's not just a conservative movement. And I think that's what people get wrong with it is people associate it with a completely conservative movement. I would say that there are areas of it that are definitely conservative leaning. But we have plenty of people in the LGBT community that have joined us that don't like the radicalization of what's going on in their community when it comes to, what's going
Stop
on.
there real quick.
Mhm.
What do they are their gripes about the LGBTQ or whatever the letters are community? I'm
So
not
to
just
the people that I watch and the people that I have talked to, it's really about the children and what's going on in the schools and how these agendas are really starting to be pushed into into our education for our children, and it's not right. And they feel that it's really it's putting a bad image on them, because if you fall into that community, there are certain people that are immediately going to assume that you're for that, right? Like you're for the sexualization of children, because really that's what's going on with this material that's being pushed into the libraries and into the curriculums. And so the people I feel just from those that I have talked to, I would say that's probably one of their main issues, and that's why they've walked away, is because they do not stand for that. And I commend anybody that walks away from their own community to stand up for truth and to stand up for what they believe is right. So I tip my hat to
oh,
anybody that walks away and that joins us being an LGBT community.
so I guess in regards to the schools, what I would always say to people is I think there should be some sort of opt-in program where if parents want their children to learn about certain things, there should be a program they opt into. And if they don't opt into that program, then they wouldn't learn about that kind of stuff. So,
Mhm.
what would be Walkaway's opinion on something like that?
I really only want to speak for myself.
Okay.
Being, because I feel like that's only fair. I don't necessarily want to speak for walkaways. I want to say that we're not for that. I mean, I haven't talked, with anybody about that opt-in program. So I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily want to speak for walkaway as a whole when it comes to that.
Because I'm
Um,
not talking about a specific opt-in program. I'm just talking more about a possible idea that they could use. So, like, say if there's like some lefty parents and they
mhm.
want their kids to learn about things like the genderbread person that I learned about recently, then okay, fine. The libertarian Jared says that parent can let their kids learn about the genderbread person if they so want to. But if someone like Christina doesn't want that, then she shouldn't have to make her kids learn about the genderbread person. And that would kind of be like just an example of an opt-in program.
And
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I definitely think that this is it's a heavy topic, right? Like,
we're
um, I guess I'm not opposed to hearing other people's opinions on this, but when it comes to, I guess, my thoughts on it, is I just feel that schools shouldn't be a place where kids learn about that in general. Maybe at high school is different, but when it comes to middle school and elementary grade levels, I just feel like any kind of talk about sex in general, I just feel like it's not for children's ears. They're in a very vulnerable and impressionable place in their lives, and they're very easily manipulated, and they're very easily you just misconstrued. And one of the main things, like, I mean, we see them all the time. These videos that are on libs of TikTok. They're one of my favorites. Love libs of TikTok. Because it shows you the severity of really what's going on in these schools. And I think that any teacher that needs to feel the need to be validated by a third grader, when it comes to their gender, or when it comes to what they should be presented as, or what the children should come to them as, I feel like that's wrong. So I feel like we should just completely take sex out of the schools, and go from it. If parents want their children to be educated on that, then they could do that privately. Teach my kid reading, writing, math, science, history. Leave the
Yeah,
rest to
I
us.
certainly agree with that more than I would disagree with that. Are there certain things that they talk about, like at the school board meetings? Because I know you'd mentioned before we had gone live about, I guess they'll show like almost pornographic images, for example. And I
Right.
was, yeah, I don't think there's really much of a reason to show some of that stuff. But is there like what other kinds of stuff do they do? Because I'm kind of unfamiliar. I know the genderbread person thing, and I know some of that stuff. But like, is there anything else you can point to specifically?
Like going on in the schools. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. I know in New York City, and now I'm not just talking about, like, I read a lot, and I watch, and I watch a lot of things, and I like to really stay on top of these topics because it's something that I'm extremely passionate about when it comes to protecting our kids, and especially being that I have young children that are just entered into the school system. So I really try to do my best to stay on top of that. And I read a lot of different stories. There was one in New York City, happened probably last year. And it was a first grade teacher, and they were showing their children, the teacher was showing the children about how to masturbate, and when is an appropriate time to do so. Now that kind of material is just absolutely disgusting. And it was like a cartoon, so they're trying to make it cute for the kids. And
What age
my
group is that for?
Jeez, sorry. It sorry, my kids are like, yeah, like first grade, they should not be listening to that. It just doesn't belong in the classroom. Where else was I going with this? Oh, but in our school systems, I mean, I know that there's posters that's kind of identifying the different sexualities, so like pansexual, transsexual, bisexual. And this isn't in an elementary school. I just feel like it has no place for that. So, there's posters, there's things like that. There's the literature that, I mean, I've physically seen a book myself where it's showing children, mind you, in the middle school. I mean, this was a book that children had easy access to. Come on, sweetie, please. And it's not it's not material that they should be looking at. Their positions of, same sex positions, and it's absolutely disgusting. What was another one that and then just the literature itself, the chapter books that it goes into like explicit detail. There was this one book. I forget the name of what it was called. I should really have a list of all of these books. I should keep that in mind for next time I do something like this. But it was a book, and it was about incest and rape. And it goes into detail of what it's like for this girl to be going through those things explicitly in this book. So it's just really vile, vulgar material for what 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds to be reading. And like I said earlier, like their minds are so impressionable, right? So if they read something like this, what are they going to be thinking? Are they going to think that this is normal? Are they going to be thinking that that's what a loving relationship is supposed to look like? We don't know, because their minds can take them wherever. So I just think that as the parents, it's our responsibility to say no. And I love the fact that we're seeing all of these parents across the nation really take a step and take a stand and say you're not gonna infiltrate our schools with this filth, really, because they're not even educational books. They're under the guise of education. They're under the guise of equality, but really they're just soft pornography for kids.
Right. I would say there always comes a point where eventually, if people talk about things enough and show it to people enough, it does become a form of promotion. Eventually, it has
Mhm.
that effect eventually. Because I know what like the LGBTQ community would say to me, and probably to you, would be, "Oh, what's so different about this than versus a heterosexual relationship, right?" And if you're going to say, "Why can't they show this when it's completely normal in a regular movie?" and then they would talk about that. And then the thing about the books, I know what they would say to that too. They would say, "Well, that's just Republican book burning." So, do you have like any answers to the people that would say that?
I do. I mean, and we're probably going to get a little controversial here on this page, but here that's what it's for. I think that there's a difference between, now, mind you, I think that sex in general should be out of the schools. So what I mean by that is like teachers shouldn't be coming into let's say my daughter's first grade teacher comes in and says, yeah, like tells the children about her date with her husband. Like that's not appropriate. Like she
I
shouldn't be
agree with
having
that.
pictures of her kissing her husband on her desk. We shouldn't just have those things in the schools. But when it comes to like, I just think that there's such a difference between like it's not book burning, for one. Like we're not asking people to get rid of these books completely like they have asked us to do. Like we need to get rid of Dr. Seuss. We need to get rid of all of the originals. They're not allowed in there, but we're allowed to have, pictures of same-sex intercourse. It's just like it makes no sense to me. It's severely contradicting. Anyway, when it comes back to like when they say like, well, why are we allowed to talk about heterosexual couples and this and that? If you think about it, that's exactly how society is ran, through a man and a woman coming together through marriage and having a child. Um,
Yeah, and that's
it's
the norm, right? And I
right. It is the
know
norm. So that is to be expected, right? Like that is how society continues to go, is because of a man and a woman coming together. So there's a
part of
difference.
what the left does is they don't like norms,
No,
right? They don't like norms. They don't like values per se. They don't like morals as much. So it
definitely don't like
becomes
traditional values either.
anything goes, right? So here's a good example for you. I'm reading Malcolm X's autobiography as told to Alex Haley right now. And he said one of the fastest ways to determine a country's moral strength or moral weakness is to take a look at the attitude and the street dress of their women, especially the young women. And he said by looking at that, you'll be able to tell how morally strong or how morally weak a country is. Now that's Malcolm X, right? And Malcolm X, he's got a good reputation over time. Even though, as I read this book, he sounds a hell of a lot like Kanye. And so Kanye, yeah, he probably read this book, honestly, because they say almost the exact same things.
Right.
But that's besides the point. So basically, that's what Malcolm X says. And I think one of the things the left really lacks in my opinion, is wisdom. So it's and this is what I noticed also. Like I've been a political poller for 6 years in Pennsylvania. I've talked to tens of thousands, if